the learner will be able to understand the concept of learning and behavior, come to know about the nature of clients and their learning behavior, get acquainted with condition of learning and principles of teaching, get acquainted with various methods of delivery, understand the implication of learning style for designing learning experiences. For designing learning programs for adults, certain basic factors must be given consideration. These may include determination of needs, identification of learning goals, designing of learning tasks and measurement of achievement. Here, we will discuss about designing of learning. For designing of learning, one should have understanding of following: learning, behavior, nature of clients, principles of adult learning, method of delivery and learning style of client. Concept of learning. Learning involves change in behavior. It is concerned with the acquisition of knowledge, attitude and skills. It enables the individual to make both personal and social adjustments. Since the concept of change is inherent in the concept of learning, any change in behavior implies that the learning is taking place or has taken place. Haggard has also mentioned that there is a remarkable agreement upon the definition of learning as being reflected in a change of behavior as a result of experience. Our job is to provide this new experience to the participants by providing new knowledge and involving them in learning tasks for changing in their attitude and practices, that is, for changing behavior. Concept of behavior. Behavior has three main components: cognitive, affective and psychomotor. Educators have determined that most adults, adolescents and children learn best by experiencing a blend of activities that promote these three learning domains. Cognitive domain refers to knowledge or a body of subject matter. Learning process in the cognitive domain is associated with those mental operations which are used to manipulate information. Thus, the cognitive domain involves a number of activities varying from exposure to information to its organization or processing in the learner's mind. Example: remembering, recalling of knowledge, memorization, abstraction, problem solving, thinking, creating and concept learning. There are 6 levels of learning in the cognitive domain. These are knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis and evaluation. Knowledge. Possession of knowledge or information is the foundation from which all higher thinking grows. Recall or recognition of specific element in a subject area, that is memory level, operates are involved at this level. Data, facts, concepts or principles are memorized at this level of learning. Knowledge forms core of many learning outcomes. It is also essential in learning and acquisition of motor skills. Changes in affect is also based on knowledge. For example, development of attitude, interest, positive feeling are based on acquisition of knowledge and information. Comprehension. Information is not useful unless it is understood. At this level, those mental operations which help in understanding of facts, concepts, principles and generalization are included. Application. Information is meaningful when it is applied to a new, not previously encountered situation. The mental operation at this level involve the use of concepts, principles and theories in real situation. Analysis. Creative thinking and problem solving begin with analytical thinking. Mentally talking something apart to understand better the relationship of the parts to each other and to the whole. It is breakdown of communication into the elements or constituent parts so that the relationship between the ideas expressed is made explicit. Synthesis. It involves putting together of the components or the parts of components, principles or generalization so as to form a whole. Evaluation. It is the qualitative and quantitative judgment about to what extent material and methods have been put to adequate use. While designing learning lessons or tasks for cognitive domain, one should provide information and facts, include concepts and principles for understanding and generalization, encourage analytical thinking by breaking the content of knowledge into several parts, explain relationship with each other and to the whole, explain application of the new knowledge in real life situation. Some provision should also be made about evaluating the learning efforts. Second component of behavior is affective domain. Affective word refers to attitudes. Learning in the affective domain includes changes in interests, attitudes, values and feelings. In cognitive domain, the main organizing principles were from simple to complex, from concrete to abstract, etc. In the affective domain, which deals with attitudes, interests and values, it is difficult to work on these principles. The main organizing principle in the affective domain is the degree of internalization, that is, the extent to which the feeling or emotions are incorporated by the learner as the part of his/her personality. The other organizing principles in the affective domain are receiving, responding, valuing, organization and characteristics. Receiving. The learner becomes aware of the existence of phenomena or stimuli, that is, he/she is willing to attend to it. While designing learning, learner's attention has to be captured so that they receive the stimuli. Responding. The learner at this point is sufficiently motivated. It is not merely attending, but actively attending and responding. Valuing. The learner perceives a concept or phenomena as having worth and consequently reveals a consistent preference or commitment in behaviors towards it. Organization. For situations where more than one value is relevant, the learner organizes the values into a system and also determines the interrelationship among them. Characteristics. After the values have been organized in the individual's mind, they control his/her behavior to some extent. Designing learning for attitudinal change. The 5 organizing principles of affective domain that we have discussed in previous slides helps in bringing about attitudinal change that can be observed in learners' behavior. For designing learning for attitude change, let the participant initially sit and listen to what is said. This is a type of receiving. Motivate them for responding by involving them to participate in a lively discussion. Give time for discussion among participants. At this point, emphasize relative advantage of new practices. A change in attitude is interpreted through change in behavior. Third component of behavior, that is psychomotor domain. The word psychomotor refers to practical application. It pertains to the manipulative or psychomotor skills, which can be developed under the supervision or guidance of an expert or skilled person. For example, the skill of driving a car can be acquired effectively under the direct supervision of a skilled instructor. Learning of skill at time is a component of cognitive and affective learning. As compared to the affective domain, learning in the psychomotor domain can be accessed with much more precision. Phases in learning of psychomotor skills. Phases in learning of psychomotor skills are cognitive, associative and autonomous phase. Cognitive phase is the phase when the individual has little or no knowledge about the skill. Therefore, the learner learns the rule of execution of movements. Movements are then performed naturally without thought. The previously acquired movements form the basis of new motor skills. Associative phase is the phase of translating the information into action. Autonomous phase is the phase when learner acquires the knowledge and applied it independently and automatic. Thus, the designing learning for a new skill or practice should be based on method demonstration. There are number of skills whose acquisition require knowledge as a prerequisite. For example, in learning to drive the car, a driver must have knowledge of accelerator, brake, clutch, gear, etc. and their individual functions and coordination function in relation with each other. For the purpose, the job is broken down into small steps and the following demonstration sequence should be followed. Introduce a task, explain and demonstrate it. Encourage participants to ask questions and provide explanations. Participants explain the same task and demonstrate it. The instructor provides feedback on how well participants perform the task. To reduce errors, right responses should be emphasized and wrong ones should be cleared. Give time to perform again correctly. Introduce another task and the steps are repeated through an entire chain of related behaviors or tasks. After covering all the steps, let the participants perform the complete practice by themselves. Give time for practice. Through practice, coordination and integration of all movements is learned. Now the movements are performed naturally. Nature of clients. In any efforts for designing learning, one must know who is the clientele. Most of the time, the clientele of developmental programs is adult learner, who may be a worker, farmer, housewife, parent and the like. Thus, we need to understand the learning behavior of adults. Regarding the adult learning behavior, Malcolm Knowles suggested the following assumptions and what it means. First assumption, adults want to know why they should learn. It means help learners answer the question, what is in it for me? Second assumption is adult needs to take responsibility, empower them to learn to take responsibility for learning and to access their own learning. Third assumption, adults bring experience to learning. Experience is both plus and a minus. It is plus because it is a vast resource and a minus as it may lead to biasness and presuppositions. Adults are ready to learn when the need arises. Some learners might not want to be there, acknowledge the fact that nothing can be done about it. On the other hand, those who want to be part of the program must work with something. Adults are task oriented, develop and organize content around task, not subject. The client may be literate or illiterate. Obviously, no written message will be planned for those who are illiterate. To reach or teach them, group extension methods like group discussion, method demonstration, brainstorming and role plays etc. are best. Radio, television and other audiovisual methods may also be used in planning learning efforts for them. For illiterates, the printing lessons and message can also be used beside all these methods. The adult educator should also give itself acquainted with the social and cultural aspect of the client. They should be careful not to include any message or promote any practice which is not compatible with the social cultural aspect of the client. The designer of learning should also give consideration of the age, sex, occupation, area of residence, political orientation, level of inspiration, attitudes and other characteristics of his participants in order to fine-tune the learning experiences to meet their needs. Principle of adult teaching learning. For designing learning experience for adults, the treatment to the content, arrangement of environment and creation of learning atmosphere should be based on principles of adult learning. McNaughton has suggested following set of principles of teaching adults. Condition of learning. The learner feels a need to learn. The principle of teaching of this condition of learning is the teacher exposes students to new possibilities of self-fulfillment. The teacher helps each student clarify his own aspirations for improved behavior. The teacher helps each student diagnose the gap between his aspiration and his present level of performance. The teacher helps the student identify the life problems they experience because of the gap in their personal equipment. The learning environment is characterized by physical comfort, mutual trust and respect, mutual helpfulness, freedom of differences. The teacher provides physical conditions that are comfortable as to seating, smoking, temperature, ventilation, lighting, decoration, etc. and conducive to interaction, preferably no person sitting behind another person. The teacher accepts each student as a person of worth and respects his feelings and ideas. The teacher seeks to build relationship of mutual trust and helpfulness among the students by encouraging cooperative activities and reframing from inducing competitiveness and judgmentalness. The teacher exposes his own feelings and contributes his resources as a co-learner in the spirit of mutual inquiry. The learner perceives the goal of the learning. The teacher involves the student in a mutual process of formulating learning objectives, in which the needs of students, of the institution, of the teacher, and of the subject matter and of the society are taken into account. The learner accepts a share of the responsibility for planning and operating a learning experience, and therefore have a feeling of commitment towards it. The teacher shares his thinking about options available in the designing of learning experiences and the selection of materials and methods, and involve the students in deciding among these options jointly. The learners participate actively in the learning process. The teacher helps the students to organize themselves, project group learning teaching teams, independent studies, etc., to share responsibility in the process of mutual inquiry. The learning process is related to and makes use of the experiences of the learners. The teacher helps the students exploit their own experiences as resources for learning through the use of such techniques as discussion, role playing, case methods, etc. The teachers gear the presentation of his own resources to the level of experiences to his particular students. The teacher helps the student to apply new learning to their experience and thus to make the learning more meaningful and integrated. The learners have a sense of progress towards their goal. The teacher involves the student in developing mutually acceptable criteria and methods for measuring progress towards the learning objectives. The teacher helps the students develop and apply procedures for self-evaluation according to these criteria. Method of delivery. Methods of delivery may be defined as the way of communication intervention for bringing about desirable changes in the voluntary behavior of the people. We must know where and when to use a given method or a combination of methods according to the clientele, program situation, available resources and time. These methods may be classified into individual contact methods, group contact methods and mass contact methods. Individual contact method. These methods provide opportunities for face-to-face or person-to-person contact between the client and adult teacher. These methods may particularly be used to develop good rapport with clients and win their confidence, overcome mutual information shortcomings, structure and find the solution of individual problems, discuss complex concepts and situations, overcome conflictive situations and teach skills. These methods may be personal visit, office calls, telephone conversation, informal contact, personal letters, etc. Group contact methods. These methods involve one or few extension educator and a group of people in a learning situation at the same time and place. The group can be small, involving 5 to 30 or big 100 to 200 persons. For intensive teaching and skill teaching, it is better to keep a small group. When purpose is to provide information and persuasion, large group may be called. Group interaction provides the opportunity to exchange beneficial and useful experiences in order to integrate information from people and adult teacher, as well as to exert influence on group members' behavior and norms. It offers a more reflective learning environment in which the people can listen, discuss and decide upon the involvement in extension activity. The group creates a supportive atmosphere and individual can gain greater self-confidence by joining others to discuss new ideas and try out new practices. The support of the group helps an individual client to make decisions and determine a course of action. If the adult teacher has not expressed himself adequately as per the need of some person. The member of the group frequently translate the message for him. Thus, functioning through group also facilitate the job of adult teacher. These methods may include method demonstration, lecture meetings, group meetings, conference, training course, tour, the field day, seminar, brainstorming, role play, workshop, etc. Mass contact method. At times, the adult educator has to approach a large number of people for disseminating new information and helping them to use it. This can be done through mass contact methods conveniently. These methods are more useful for making people aware of the new technology quickly. These methods may include radio, posters, charts, news stories, newspapers, campaign, audio cassette, video cassette, pamphlets, folders, internet, etc. Implication of learning style. The three primary learning styles are visual, auditory and kinesthetic. Visual learners tend to learn by looking, seeing, viewing and watching. Auditory learner tends to learn by listening, hearing and speaking. Kinesthetic learners tends to learn by experiencing, moving and doing. For visual, transparencies, video slides, flip charts, reading, demonstration. For auditory, lectures, group discussions, stories and examples, brainstorms. For kinesthetic, role players, simulations, activities are used. It is difficult to segregate the client with respect to their learning style and accordingly plan and design the teaching learning sessions. Moreover, most of the people, though may learn more by a given style, they have a capability to learn via all these three styles. The Cone of Learning by Edgar Dale. According to Edgar Dale, we tend to remember 10% of what we read, 20% of what we hear and 30% of what we see, 50% of what we see and hear, 70% of what we say and 90% of what we say and do also. Thus, the designer of learning experience, besides planning the things that be heard and seen, should also plan the experience in such a manner that the participants speak the message and get involved in some kind of activity. Summary. Learning involves change in behavior. Behavior has three main components, that is cognitive, affective and psychomotor. Educators have determined that most adults learn best by experiencing a blend of activities that promote these three learning domains. Thus, while designing learning lessons or tasks, one should not only emphasize on the provision of information and facts, but should also include concepts and principles. Analytical thinking should be encouraged and provision should also be made for the application of the new knowledge in real life situations. Participants should be motivated for responding and be involved to participate in discussion. Relative advantage of new practices should be emphasized. For skill learning, the interactive method demonstration should be used. Adults want to know why they should learn, need to take responsibility, bring experience to learning, are ready to learn when the need arises, and are task oriented. These characteristics must be considered while designing the learning. The contents and design should be based on principle of learning. Suitable methods of delivery should be selected based on the type of clientele, program situations, available resources and time. The designer of learning experience, beside planning the things that may be heard and seen, should also plan the experience in such a manner that the participants speak the message and get involved in some kind of activity.